It's done. Because they want to be able to hold on to their own truth.
Wow.
Some nurses have gotten a clue. They say, do you want me to tell you what this says? Or do you want to just read it for yourself? Yeah, let's keep that between me and the scale today. I'll tell you what the number said, ma'am, and you can write it down. But it's without a regulator. I can be who I want to be. I can do what I want to do without a regulator. But there has to be, Sister Greer, a regulator in my life called the wisdom of God that is going to make the truth come out of me, even when I've lied to others and myself about who I really am.
That's good.
So Solomon says, God, I need that kind of wisdom. I need the kind of wisdom that even when it's more convenient for me to lie, I'll be forced to tell the truth. The kind of wisdom that even when it's convenient for me to go back into that life to make a quick dollar, I want the truth to make me have to stay on the straight and narrow. Because see, this is the thing about a regulator. A regulator isn't going to lie.
You know?
That's right.
Wow.
The regulator doesn't even know what lie to tell. Catch it. Okay, let's go back to that. Okay, I hear you. Now, the regulator doesn't know that you want to be lighter.
No clue. No clue.
So it doesn't know to try to make you seem skinnier because you may want to seem bigger. Especially some people, doing weight building stuff, type stuff, they might want to be bigger. So the regulator says, I don't even know how to lie for you. Catch it, please, somebody. I don't even know what's going to satisfy you because I'm geared around truth. So I don't know if this is the day you want to sell drugs or not because the regulator only knows how to live for God.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is the day you want to not like this person or not because the regulator only knows how to do it God's way. So when I yield to the regulator in me, the wisdom of God, how to regulate my relationship, he doesn't allow me to treat some people this way and other people that way because the regulator doesn't know how to discern.
Wow.
So after Solomon prays for his wisdom, he gets the wisdom of God. Wisdom of God is in his life. Okay. Wisdom of God is in his life. Now, I got to say, I don't even know if y'all going to catch this or not because I feel like I've been in another place tonight. But in First Kings 3, that story about Solomon, Evangelist Grant, I want you to catch this, okay? Because you're a preacher, so I want you to catch this. Now, in the first two verses of 1 Kings chapter 3, the Bible tells us that Solomon, this is before he asked for wisdom and prayed to God. Solomon, the Bible says, went unto Pharaoh, and he had connected with Pharaoh's daughter. So he already had a foreign woman that was a wife of his now. So he was already kind of setting himself up to be all over the place. And the Bible says, Brashel, after he spent a little time with when he was out in over there getting Pharaoh's daughter, the Bible says that the people were all over the place, Minister Black.
Yeah.
They had a heart for God, so to speak. But because, catch this, there was not yet a house built for God. They were worshiping God wherever they felt like it was suitable to worship him. Now, because they were worshiping in places where they thought it was suitable, they really found themselves worshiping in foreign places. In places that were not conducive to an environment that was sanctified unto the Lord.
Yes, sir.
And while the king, who was still in the process of trying to get wisdom, supposed to have been leading the people, while he's playing in foreign territory, the people that are following him are worshiping wherever they find a place to worship. And what the history shows me, Minister Lipscomb, is that they found out how to worship foreign gods because they were worshiping in foreign places.
Right? Because that's what we were doing. Go ahead.
Because there was not a house built for God. they worshiped in a school.
Wow. Go
I
ahead,
want to close the book and go home.
Go ahead, Pastor. Go ahead. Go ahead.
They worshiped in places that were not conducive to the presence and the power of God. That they would worship there because there wasn't a house built for God, but because the place wasn't conducive for his presence, they picked up foreign worship practices. That whatever environment the school left in Friday is what they worship in on Sunday. And because the king decided, I'd rather be in foreign territory than look for a house for God, I've now got a nation of people who develop bad worship habits.
Come on, Pastor.
So Solomon doesn't just pray for wisdom because he was a smart guy. He prays for wisdom because he understands he's put himself in a position that is really a lose-lose. He realized that I should have been in prayer while the people were in foreign places. But because I didn't regulate what was going on, and I allowed the congregation to do what they wanted to do without looking for a house for God, he now has to turn to God and say, I need wisdom. Now we give Solomon a lot of credit, and that's good. Let's all applaud him. That's great. But let's look at the backdrop.
Yeah, it's good.
That had he been doing what he was supposed to do as the king, he never even has to pray for wisdom because he would have got it if he would have stayed in faith. But because I'm fiddle-faddling in foreign territory, the faith that God wanted to deposit in me before I became the king, I missed. So now I got to pray and ask God to give me wisdom, not necessarily just to lead them, but how to clean up what I missed when I was playing. That's for a leadership class. I'm gonna teach that somewhere to somebody. To understand that we've got to make sure until you get a house, you got to make sure you're looking for a house. Because it's in the pursuit of the house that you got the wisdom and the faith. Okay, so Solomon goes through all that. He gets this wisdom. The Bible says, the thing he asked for pleased God, and God gave it to him, and he was one of the greatest people of all time. So we identify that wisdom, again, is designed to be connected to the things of God. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 2. Then I'm going to get out of here. 1 Corinthians chapter 2. Let's actually look at chapter 1. 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Bring a little conclusion here. Talk about internal balance. Prayerfully, you got some. If you haven't, just go back and look at it again and get you'll get a revelation when you watch it on YouTube. And say, wow, I see it now. That's what he was trying to say. Yeah, I know. 1 Corinthians chapter 2. Chapter 1. Keep saying chapter 2. 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Chapter 1. I'm going to start at verse 17. This I'm going to conclude here. Paul talking about the wisdom of this world and the faith that we're supposed to have. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 17 says, For Christ sent me not to baptize, but to preach the gospel, not with wisdom of words, lest the cross of Christ should be made of none effect. For the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this world? Have not God made foolish the wisdom of this world? For after that, in the wisdom of God, the world by wisdom knew not God. It pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that are lost. For the Jews require a sign, and the Greeks seek after wisdom. But we preach Christ crucified, unto the Jews a stumbling block, and unto the Greeks foolishness. But unto them which are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God, and the wisdom of God. Because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than man. I'll pause right there. So Paul gives a synopsis here in these several verses. He says, I need you to understand that even though between Genesis 3 and now 1 Corinthians 1, we've seen that the entrance of the enemy has created a contention between God and his wisdom. Paul says, I'm here to show you what a regulator will do. The regulator, the wisdom of God, comes into our lives to be in direct contention with the wisdom of this word. Paul says it is the preaching of the cross that for those that don't believe in this same wisdom, it seems foolish. But to those of us who understand the power of God, it is his power. Okay, Pastor, what are you trying to say? Paul is trying to say that when we're walking out our walk of faith, Sister Coop, it's supposed to look weird to those who don't have faith. Your walk with God is going to look weird to one that is not walking with God. Paul says it is your life that's going to seem foolish when you decide to live in the principles of God. Again, I ain't going to talk about money no more because that scares people. So I'll talk about just holiness and doing right. When you stop going around certain people and doing the certain things that you were doing when you were in their presence, it is now you that seems to be the fool. When you stop entertaining certain ideas and certain thoughts and certain issues, when at one time you will go off the deep end because of the issue, it is not that you are, different, but to them, you're going to seem like a fool. Because it is the regulating ability of God that's now taking over your life. So whenever I start changing for the better, I'm always going to seem like a fool to the one that's staying in place. Okay. The carnival used to have rides back in the day. They probably still do. It was one ride. My sister, back in the day, she was like, she would be a real rider. She probably still is now, but I ain't been with her in so long to the amusement park. She might have tapped out. But she used to be a real rider back in the day. And I remember one time, this is during the moments of our lives, just as when she was really mean to me. I'm gonna just teach and pure tonight. Where I was just so worrisome, Sister Tiana, I was the worrisome little brother. I was the one that always got to tag along and go. So she was at the carnival. This is back when the carnival used to be at Tower Mall. That's for the old Portuguese. And she and I don't even know if I was old enough, big enough, whatever it was to get on the ride. But it was this ride that you would get in, Mr. Black, and they don't even strap you in. You just get in and you stand.
I got the name.
Stand.
That's it.
Yeah, y'all see it. You lean back.
Oh, I got it.
They just move you around in circles. And this thing is going a million miles an hour seemingly. You're doing all this stuff. You're moving. You're shaking. You're moving. But the middle never moves. Okay. Now, to those of us, because eventually I did ride the ride. It might not have been in time when I was with her. But to those of us that were riding the ride, the thing that was stable seemed to be the issue. Because everybody is going like this. The weird thing that's actually holding us down looks crazy.
That's good.
Everything is going like this, and all of us own it. We having a great time, enjoying it. This is great. Yeah, everybody's screaming, laughing, and we think the thing that's stable is the oddball. But the thing that's not moving, the regulator,
that's good, sir.
is actually the thing that's keeping you safe, while everybody else is agreeing with your foolishness.
Everybody.
So to the outside, the one that's not on the ride, catch this. The one not on the ride thinks you're a dummy for being on it. But the ones in it think the stability is the dummy. All right. So what I'm trying to get us to understand is it is going to be a time in our lives where we have to be that stability. That while our family and friends and our neighbors in close proximity are literally operating according to the wisdom of the world, they're being foolish. I've got to remain willing to stand firm as the regulator. Even though I look foolish to them, I've got to be the one to help their lives be preserved. When Esther understood she was called of God to be the voice for the people, she had to go before the king, risking her life in order to save the lives of others. I'm trying to help us understand that when we operate according to the wisdom of God, Just want to give that analogy or that instance. When we operate according to the wisdom of God, you're going to look foolish. But Paul says the foolishness of God is still wiser than man.
Yes.
And the weakness of God is still stronger than man. He went on to 27 verse, said, but God have chosen the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. And God have chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. The base things of the world and the things which are despised have God chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught those things which are, that no flesh shall glory in his presence. So we identify that God says we're going to look foolish. It's going to look crazy when we are operating according to the wisdom of God and not according to the wisdom of this world. There will always, I'm concluding here for real, there will always be a measure of the unknown in our walk with God.
Wow.
There will always be a measure of the unknown in our walk with God. He's never going to give us all of it, because then we don't have to have any faith. But I will tell you this, that what he reveals is contingent on my level of faith. So there'll always be a measure, even in your past, because I'm not, there. I'm not, because I would be in heaven. But even in my life, there's going to remain a measure of the unknown, because I have to still have a dependency on God to reveal so that I can walk by faith. But because by the grace of God, I'm pushing towards a higher level of faith, there may be more revealed to me, because the revelation is going to be released contingent on my measure of faith. Here it is. Let's go to Romans. I'm going for it. Romans 12. And this is going to be my last point for the night. I didn't work y'all too hard. And if I didn't, y'all work me too hard. Romans 12. I'm going to start at verse 3. Paul again, right? He says, for I say through the grace given unto me, that to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God has dealt to every man the measure of faith. So all of us have a measure of faith, Sister Coop. All of us have a measure of faith. For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office, so we being many are one body in Christ, and every one members one of another. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith. I'm going to just pause right there. So Paul said, God, and I've told you all this before, God has given to every one of us in the room a measure of faith. Right. All of us have a measure. But you can only operate according to the measure that you have. So Paul says, anything I want to do for God, I can only do for God connected to the measure of faith that I have for him. So if you want to be a great preacher, then your faith has to rise to a level of a great preacher. If you want to be a great prophet, then your faith has to rise to the level of a great prophet. He says, because even when I prophesy, I'm only prophesying according to the proportion of faith that God has given me. Which is why some things that a prophet may say would maybe scare you, or maybe you think that's not even possible for happening, because they're prophesying on their measure of faith. Their measure may be higher than yours. So it's easy for them to say what God will do, because God's revealed to them on their level what he's capable of doing.
We've already moved.
So it's not difficult to say that the job is yours. Because God has already revealed to me on my level, the job is yours. It's not difficult for me to say, go get the car, because God has already revealed to me on my level, the car is yours. So there has to be a proportion of faith that one operates in, but that faith has to still be regulated by wisdom. I'm getting out of here. So even when prophetic moments come, and God speaks his word, if you ever just judge, or, maybe that's not a good word, but if you ever just observe or look at, well, how does pastor say that stuff? Or why does pastor say that stuff? You should always not only hear God and see God in your leader, but you should really start looking at the source your pastor's prophesying to. Because if I already understand you are a principal worker, it's easy for me to proclaim, according to the portion of my faith, a principally worked miracle over your life. Because you already operate in those principles. So it's easy for me to hear God tell Sister Foster, I answered your prayer, because she's a principle worker. So it matches, the principle of God matches with the proportion of my faith that I can speak what I know I heard because she's a principle worker.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But you got to have enough faith and enough wisdom to know that not everybody is going to be a millionaire.
That's real.
So when the I'm out of here. When the prophet says, send me a $20.17 seed for the year 2017, I'm releasing the miraculous in your life for you to operate as a millionaire. Well, I got issue with that because how do you know the source from which you're prophesying to?
Uh-oh.
You're literally lying because wisdom didn't help regulate the prophetic. There still has to be a wisdom.
Yes.
It would be foolish for me to look at this young man if I didn't know that TJ was his age. If I didn't know what he was and he just walked in the room because, he got that, athletic body. He looks older than what he is. I'm an idiot to look at him and just say, oh, I see you getting married tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm missing God.
Yeah. No wisdom.
No wisdom.
No regulator.
There was no regulator.
Sir, none.
I looked through my eyes. I got to get you a little bit right here, so just take this one on the chin, okay? I look through my eyes and I see a man, but I don't know behind the scenes, he don't even make his bed up.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
My God.
So how am I going to say through the Spirit, oh, you're going to get a wife? Well, you can't even make your bed. It's got to be a regulator. That's why God is continuing to position you, and I'm out of here for real.
Go ahead.
That when we come into contact with certain things, we ought to be able to discern what's God and what's not.
Discern.
A good point would be, I ain't never heard my pastor say that. So why God gonna drop some dynamic, earth-shattering word on your life that ain't come through the lips of the one that's praying for you every day?
No confirmation. That's right.
It just ain't gonna work.
Yes, sir.
So listen. God help me. So we at the thing Friday night. And the woman of God, and she right on point. Ain't nothing wrong. We said it all. The woman of God said, I see apostolic anointing on your life. Well, the reason I don't jump up, do cartwheels, run around the church, pass out 80 times, because I understand the mantle I operate under.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
I'm submitted to an apostle.
Yes, sir.
So the mantle of my submission has to show an apostolic anointing.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm not submitted to.
That's good.
So I ain't gonna cabbage patch because she said you got apostolic anointing on you. God bless you, woman of God. Well, you can see. We give God praise. But I ain't gonna go and run around, ooh, y'all heard what she said? That's foolish.
Ain't God good? Ain't God good?
All right, I'm done.
Yes, sir.
Just clap for Jesus.
Yeah.